time is now 5:27. All mics are live, and we are streaming and recording on all platforms.
They just come and stare at us. It's still our hearts out there.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Damn, Roy. What is it?
I'll give you $100 bill or something. What's wrong? You go dressed up. Oh, no, that's just black and white always makes you look formal. But it's just a basic white shirt and a tie. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm on my 80s.
I'm good. Yeah.
90s.
Yeah, it's getting old, believe me.
You know, it's mostly the back door.
Hey, just so you know.
Healthy ones, he always I'm good. The back door, can you see the burn marks and stuff? But, okay, that's why I see it.
I mean, Alderman
I think they're going to reopen. Still? I think they're going to remodel and. Maybe a bad insurance. What other big crowd? What you doing? What's on the agenda?
got an iPad that got notes on it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a meeting on it? Next week? Not you. Because all you do is just
Definitely
radio
better.
guy, 1450.
Definitely, I definitely win.
You guys are both boring. That was a boring, man. What the heck? What is that all about? Get some. That's boring. You're boring too. I think look at Mordock's. He's got a better tie than both of you guys. Mordock's ties it.
Where's the ladies at?
I win.
Mordock's got a nicer tie than either one of you guys.
Yeah, seasonal.
I say we call it a tie. I think excuse the pun.
I like that.
Having the appointed time of 5:30, I'd like to call the Tuesday, September 24th, 2024 Committee of the Whole to order. Would you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Lesko, would you please take the roll?
Will do. Alderman Redpath.
Here.
Alderman Gregory.
Here.
Mike's artwork.
Alderman Williams.
Here.
Alderman Rockford.
Here.
Alderwoman Purchase.
Here.
Alderwoman Notoriano.
Here.
Alderman Carlson.
Here.
Alderwoman Conley. Thank you. Alderman Donlin.
Here.
Alderman Hanauer.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, a quorum is present.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to include Alderwoman Conley to the meeting remotely, please.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
I would accept a motion for the approval of the September 10th, 2024 committee meeting minutes.
Moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any presentations?
There is one.
CWLP. All 17 of you, come on up.
Oh, that was weird.
Okay, so kind of do here for a committee update on some various items here that we have for you tonight. Customer service, update on electric projects, talk about reliability, and MISO, some wind and solar storage, and then lead service lines. So before we get to that, I just kind of want to just remind everybody where our guiding principles are for our mission. And that's basically the value is in our affordable and reliable and resilient electric and water services. You know, our services are going to be high quality and provided in a responsible manner. And for the community, we have to be responsive to our customer needs, and the local control, the local decisions that are made have made the utility successful for decades. However, you know, improving customer experience is something that we want to look at. So we're going to do a survey here with basically for customer satisfaction. We're working with UIS, the Professional Survey Research Office, and they're going to reach out to about 10,000 homes. They're going to be seeking input on electric and water topics, general satisfaction, preference, priorities for services, and things to improve on. An initial round of letters will be issued over the next month for that, and then we expect the results back really by the end of the year, and we'll share that. One of the other things that we're wanting to do is expand the bill payment and features and online options. Our staff are going to be working on a request for proposals for that. Basically, we want to add a system that adds smart features to what we have currently. So like bill reminders, texting, adding forms of payment such as Apple Pay, Google Pay, PayPal, et cetera. Then that's kind of more on the customer side of things, but for us, some of these features that are going to be added should help us also reduce call volume as well. So that would help the utility side of things. Next, I want to look at the value we provide with our electric rates. And we've done this comparison before, basically against the state average for our residential bills. We compare historically for the last few years lower than the state average by quite a bit. And then something that we were able to do this year, kind of in preparation for rating agency reviews, is look at the commercial rates. And basically, I think we compare very closely to a lot of the peers of cities of similar size across the state. And then for projects, I'm going to turn it over to Scott to go over that for a few of the slides.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
Front and front and back wasn't useful. Current projects, we just completed Unit 4 turbine overhauls, about a 3-month project. That is our second turbine overhaul of that unit since it went into service in 2009. About every 8 years that is done. Completely tear the turbine down and rebuild it. About $6 million project by the time we were done. Cooling tower repairs, these have been ongoing for a few years. 8 cells in the cooling tower. It's original, 15 years old now, believe it or not. And we're starting to replace fan blades, and we're going to have some plume abatement coils we'll start replacing also. Some of the other stuff we've been working on for a while, Unit 4 gas conversion study. Just originally that started as a feasibility of replacement of coal with unknown with our coal contract and what pricing is going to do with coal. Hedging against higher costs. And the greenhouse reduction rules in place now, that makes it look a little different. And there's an option with some regulations that Doug's going to go through a little bit later with 40% co-fire. So the scope of that study has changed a little bit, and we're still looking at that. We had some scope items that were missed early on that we went back to them, so that is still ongoing. ERP project, the Enterprise Resource Planning Project, that is a city function, so that is not only on our system or our responsibility, but that is citywide. That is, it'd be about 12 months, about a $6 million project that ISD is going to be doing, and it's going to consume a lot of internal resources, not only the majority of ISD, but it touches every department in the city, so a lot of other entities will be involved in that also. Some future projects, one we have out on the street right now, RFP for utility scale solar and or battery storage. It's been issued. We're looking for anywhere from 25 to 100 megawatts of battery storage and or solar projects. Ash Pond Closure Project, still waiting on permits from US EPA and Illinois EPA. RFP for AMI meters, those proposals have been received. Costs are pretty much in line from what we've seen so far, from what we expected. That will help us identify outages faster, give us some ideas on future rate design, what we can do to improve rate design for us and our customers. Allows for design of load shedding programs. We'd be able to tailor load shedding programs a little better. Providing support or improve insight for the customers. They'd be able to get more information, more data on time of use and different things like that. Part of the bond refinancing that we've been talking about, we're going to use part of that to begin that conversion. Some future projects. We did apply for a FEMA grant, part of the derecho storm. We were able to apply for another FEMA grant. Looking at undergrounding two main feeder circuits. Amos 5, which is which will feed Grand Valley Village area, and Grandview 3, which is basically Albany to Milton, all the way north through Northgate. That's still, we've applied for it. We're not sure we're going to get that. It's a $3 million grant and $760,000 match. There's two 69 kV circuits that we're going to rebuild this year. And then Public Works is redoing Lawrence Avenue. And part of that, we will rebuild our circuits in conjunction with that. And Lincoln Land and UIS feeder circuits, both of those feeder circuits are 50 years old. So we're in a process, or we're going to rebuild both of those this year also. On the generation side, you can see the units there that we've retired. Specifically with Dahlman, the 3 Dahlman units, 31, 32, and 33. Closure of that actually reduced our CO2 emissions by over 1.5 million tons a year. Dahlman 4 operational since 2009. Currently, we do not have plans to shut it down before 2045 per CEJA requirements. It does provide reliability and a high capacity value to the city and the utility and its customers. We still have 3 peaking units, and we have the 250 megawatt solar installation at Harrison Park. And with that, I will turn it back over to Doug.
So one of the biggest impacts to Unit 4 is the greenhouse gas rule. And there's a few options that you can do. So we can retire by 2032, or we can convert to carbon capture and sequester by 2032, or switch to 100% natural gas by 2030. And with those last 2 options, basically there's no forced retirement date. Or another option is to co-fire with natural gas at 40% by 2030, but then be forced to retire by 2039. However, opposition is growing to this carbon rule. FERC Commissioner Mark Christie just recently, told Congress in a letter that these proposed regulations are forcing the premature retirement of these units, and basically it's a loss of those dispatchable resources. Dispatchable resources are your base load generation for natural gas, coal, where non-dispatchable or intermittent resources like solar and wind. So we'll use those terms a little bit throughout the presentation. But the loss of the vital dispatchable generation resources could be catastrophic. In his words, basically it's the fundamental threat to reliability is the premature retirements of these necessary resources. Many large utilities have filed lawsuits, and it's likely to be appealed to the Supreme Court, which would take probably a couple years, probably to decide. Unprecedented, 4 grid operators, including MISO, which is CWLP belongs to, they're basically have submitted what they call an amicus brief to the courts, urging that the courts send this rule back to be revised. And it's basically for these same reasons of their concern is the viability and reliability of the electric grid in face of these premature retirements without, viable resources to replace them. So one thing I want to kind of cover is the value of Unit 4. We don't really talk about that as much. It's a hedge against higher energy prices in the market due to the rapid retirements of power plants. It's reliability to our customers, if grid issues come to fruition. So if if the grid goes down around us, without Unit 4, we would have been unable to supply power to the city of Springfield, which we can currently do. It reduces energy and capacity purchases, leading to low customer rates. And I think I've illustrated how our customer rates are doing here, doing well. It's the site of multiple large projects that are funded by the U.S. Department of Energy. And then it has modern pollution controls, no heat input to the lake, all the ash is beneficially reused, it's not sent to the ash ponds. So there's, I kind of get a little bit of a concept is, when we talk about the value of Unit 4, what about replacing Unit 4 with solar? We're required to have capacity, by MISO, basically to cover our peak load. So the capacity value of Dolman 4 is roughly, say, 190 megawatts. That would equate to a 4,750 megawatt solar installation. And we'll get to the valuation of that here under MISO with some slides here in a bit. But it's a massive amount of solar generation that would be needed. It would require about 35,000 acres of land, cost about $6 billion, but if there's 50% tax credits, which I think we would qualify for, it would reduce it to about $3 billion. So basically, you would trade dispatchable baseload energy with non-dispatchable intermittent resource, and without an affordable, viable battery technology to cover the needs when the sun doesn't shine, there's going to be problems. So really, that leaves you with a picture of, we still want to add solar generation to the portfolio, and that's going to be a better option than replacing Dolman 4 with solar at this time. So now I want to get into discussion of reliability and some of the things that we're seeing, from various things in the industry. I want to ensure that you have an awareness of what's going on in the industry, because a lot of this stuff doesn't seem to see the light of day. It just stays within the industry. Utility companies see it, certain reporters see it, but the media doesn't report on it. Except for just last week, Chicago Tribune editorial board had an editorial published, and it is an electricity crisis is looming for Illinois. Is anybody paying attention in Springfield? So I think this is a little bit more geared towards the legislators, not really for the general public maybe as much, but it does apply. So their concerns are these fossil fuel plants that are being forced to retire by environmental rules and market conditions. And the growth of renewable facilities such as wind and solar, they're just not making the difference. And the problem is not just in Chicago, it is also Springfield, Southern Illinois. Under MISO, MISO's came forward and said that basically there's going to be probably about a 50% short of capacity to keep the lights on during the highest demand periods as soon as 2027. And the Chicago Tribune, said that this situation should be ringing alarm bells. And this is not my words, it's, the Chicago Tribune. Electric reliability concerns from NERC, which is the National American Electric Reliability Corporation. They are a basically non-for-profit organization that is tasked with basically reducing I guess you say the risks of reliability and security to the electric grid. They report to a federal agency called FERC. And what they do is about every year they do a 4-year outlook, and for 24 to 2028 they show MISO region as a high risk region. So basically that means that there could be energy shortages during normal peak conditions, and they attribute that shortfall of generation because of the expected generator retirements, and there's not enough new resources to cover that. So back in July, MISO met with many utilities, and we were part of that, and they gave us a presentation. So I'm going to cover some of those slides now. so you can kind of see what, what we've been hearing. And broad agreement exists around significant load increases ahead, but the visibility into those, the magnitude of them, the timing of them is limited. MISO does conduct surveys, and basically it shows that capacity is insufficient to support this type of load growth. Another one, the new technologies that could replace current resources are going to be, I guess they're not going to be economically mature enough for some time, so that gives them concern. Many of the approved new resources are also encountering significant challenges and delays. One of their main points here is that they need a coordinated transition plan, which includes deferring retirements until other options are available, until other resources, are economical and reliable. MISO point blank verbally told us, they said, do not retire your generating units. We need all of the existing generation that's available, along with everything in the queue. What I mean by the queue is what is being planned. So that's mainly renewables. So they need all of the renewables plus our existing generation in order to meet the future load growth that's expected. Another thing that they told us, as far as the reliability issues, they had 10 days without wind on an event, and it was covered by fossil fuels. Their concern is that in the future, when there is no fossil fuels, that the technology that exists today, there is nothing that really is there that can cover that type of event when there's 10 days without wind. One of the other things here that I guess is kind of a little bit more detail on some of the bullet points I just kind of went over, but so this is their forecasted load growth that they see, and it's attributed to data centers, manufacturing, increased cooling demand, electric vehicles, and cryptocurrency. Here they're showing basically the policy direction, the regulations that are accelerating thermal unit retirements, that we're going to be at 103 gigawatts by 2042 of retirements of dispatchable generation. And there's some recent articles too that showed that Microsoft basically entered into an agreement to bring the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant back into operation to support its AI operation. There's a Palisades nuclear plant in Michigan that's coming back on from a $1.5 billion investment from the Biden administration to restart it. One of the other things here from NERC, the president and CEO, basically, he's got a statement here that he's concerned that there's going to be more frequent, longer duration reliability disruptions, even a national consequence type of an event that are coming from this, this rapid deployment of, generation retirements. So that can expose basically, the country to larger scale brownouts or blackouts. Some of the accreditation issues that we've seen from MISO, and this is for capacity, and it gets to the point that I was trying to make with, the value of Unit 4. You can see the value that they're putting on wind and solar versus, which is non-dispatchable, versus dispatchable, which is your coal and your natural gas and nuclear. And the value for those wind and solar is much less value, which is why it takes so much to make up for a fossil fuel type plant. I already told you about the solar, what it would take to replace Unit 4, but if it was wind, out in 2032, I'm sorry, the wind would be 2,714 megawatts of wind it would take to do that. Another thing that's occurring that's part of MISO's plan is the transmission build out. And we hear a little bit about that. I've talked about it at budget times as in more in the past, that our costs keep increasing. That's something we can't really pass along to the customer and without a rate increase, and we keep absorbing it. But this is to try to get renewables from kind of the Midwest across to towards the east side of the country. And they have a tranche 1 that was about 10 billion. They have what they call tranche 2.1, which is what they show here for the transmission lines that would be built at about 23 to 27 billion. They have tranche 2.2, which is another phase, which is expected to be about 20 billion. This is going to increase our costs eventually to a point where we'll have to raise rates to cover these expenses. It's prorated off of our load of what we use, so I don't know what those costs are going to be because they haven't given us that. But eventually, the bill will come due, I guess you might say, because it is a massive build out of what they're doing to try to get renewables spread out across the country. So now I want to focus a little bit more on wind, solar, and storage, because we have been after them for some time, just waiting for prices to become more economical. But the wind capacity we actually have been doing for a while now, and we extended that contract out, but I think it was about a year and a half ago, to the planning year 2037, 2038 at a cost of about 24.7 million. Again, this capacity is required for us to cover our annual peak load responsibility. And you can provide that capacity through building generation, contracts, and taking it to the auction. And the auction it's a dangerous thing to take too much to the auction because it's very volatile. We've seen years where the prices have skyrocketed, and it really affect customer bills at that point if that happens. So we try to hedge as much as we can for that. So Scott alluded that we are doing the new RFP for the utility scale solar and storage. Solar best fits are as an addition basically to our current generation portfolio compared to our load. And we've been meeting regularly with vendors since the last RFP that we did. And the pricing's been in the upper 60s for solar, and batteries even higher. We just met with a vendor late last week and said that there's some projects that are edging into the $70 range. But we're hopeful that we can get something that might be economical that we can pursue. The reason that we talk about this double black diamond, we've just been asked why we weren't able to be a part of that project. And essentially is they did bid on the last RFP, but their prices were a lot higher. We had about, I think, 3, maybe 4 bidders that were lower than them at the time. And, I've explained it in the past, but basically we had COVID happen and supply chain issues, the tariff issue, which raised prices out of our reach at that time and basically doubled the price of solar. One of the more exciting things that we're doing, I think, is we're looking at basically a grant application that we've applied for a community solar program. That grant has moved to the next phase. It looks like we might get it, so that's a good thing. We've got letters of support from Sustainable Springfield and Faith Coalition of Common Good. What this program is to use the value of the solar installation towards bill assistance for our low-income customers. It's kind of a one of its kind. This has really never been done this way. Typically, in other parts of the state for community solar, third parties come in and then they sell directly to customers, and they can't do that in our territory, essentially in our city, because that messes with some things legally that makes it too complicated. So it was our idea to come forward if we can get this grant, is develop this program with community support. That's phase 1. Phase 2 would be to actually apply for a grant to do the installation. So this would apply like the LIHEAP or the project relief. This would be an additional resource that we could put towards low income. So I think it could be a good program. So, here's just kind of a summary of what we've already kind of discussed a little bit. Reliability is first and foremost with all of our planning now. But instead of going over these, each again, I want to kind of leave you with a quote. It's from the executives of Americans for a Clean Energy Grid and the Electric Power Supply Association. So they co-authored an article And in it, it had, disagreement over energy policy continues to polarize public and policymakers alike. Pairing partnership with extraordinary demands on our power grid from load growth and energy evolution is a recipe for catastrophic failure. Instead, a better approach is to identify areas of common ground that will enhance the likelihood of success for the whole system, thus ensure a reliable power grid. I agree with this. I think our community wants CWLP to be part of a reliable power grid with affordable energy and also clean and sustainable generation. Working toward common ground for a sensible transition is the only way to assure the success of this. And that's exactly what CWLP has been doing. So now I want to turn it over to Todd to do an update on lead service line replacements.
Thank you. I knocked that off my list.
Good evening, everybody. I wanted to take the opportunity just to provide you with an update in general, the water utility here about halfway through the fiscal year, and then kind of get into kind of the topic of the day, the one that's in the headlines, lead service lines, go into a little more detail. But I just got 2 slides, so it'll be pretty quick. So I guess the first big thing is the rate increase back on March 1st, right? Everybody probably wants to hear how we're doing in terms of revenues and whatnot. We've got our financials in through the end of July, so July 31st, 2024, so 5 months out of the fiscal year, and water sales are down. We pulled in probably $2 million over what we did the prior fiscal year, which is off from what we projected. So right now, a 32% rate increase is looking more like a 20 to 25% revenue increase for the department, if you can follow that. And so, of course, we've got a long way to go. We still got 7 months, and September's been a strong sales month, so we'll just see where we end at the end of the fiscal year. But that's where we're at today with our most up-to-date financials. So beyond that, out in the lake, another big topic of concern has always been kind of the blue-green algae and the dirty, musty, earthy taste. The blue-green algae are active out in the lake, but we have been able to pull those levels down below threshold all year, and we're getting towards the tail end of the danger zone. So once we get into October, mid-October, we're just about through it. So it looks like we're going to get lucky on the taste and odor runs this year. Over at distribution, outside of lead service lines, we have replaced and/or installed new main to the tune of about 3.5 miles this year. About half of that has been main replacement, and half of it has been developer-funded projects. So we've been busy there in that facet of the organization as well. And then kind of the topic that we've got here, lead service lines, that I guess grabs the attention of most water utilities these days. I always start this conversation, you've heard this multiple times, obviously. We're pretty proud of the fact that we started our lead service replacement program in 2019. So a long time ago. We're a long way into this program, well beyond what most water utilities are. Then, of course, I've always talked about Illinois as one of the 3 most progressive states in terms of lead service line replacements. So Illinois, New Jersey, and Michigan are the 3 states that have state legislation on the books to do some form of lead service line replacement over some period, either currently or in the future. So here in Illinois, 2027 is the key, I guess, year that we have mandated lead service line replacements being required. So for us, what that's probably going to look like is a 5% replacement rate. A couple other things that are going on in terms of legislation with lead is LCRR. That's a federal regulation that is set to go into effect in mid-October. What that's going to do for us is it's going to require us to sample more frequently, and then it's got some MCLs and some action levels and things like that get tightened up as well. So currently we're on the reduced monitoring schedule for lead and copper. That's due to our favorable monitoring history over the years. This LCRR, it takes everybody back to baseline monitoring, so we're going to have to double the number of sample sites. We're going to go from 50 to 100, and we're going to have to do our sampling every 6 months as opposed to every 3 years. So obviously our lab people out at the plant are busy trying to get all set up and geared up for that coming up starting January 1st. And then finally, we're all just actively watching LCRI and the finalization of that potential rule. That one would be the big game changer. That one would require us and all utilities across the nation to replace all their lead service lines within a 10-year period. That is obviously not what we've been gearing up to do to this point, nor is anybody else really. Across the nation, it'd be a game changer, but that is what is proposed in that legislation. We'll see if it gets enacted. So here's some statistics on our lead program, what we've accomplished this fiscal year. So back in April, some of you, I think I stood in front of you about the letters that went out to homes that had lead service lines or potential lead service lines. We had to turn in our inventory of our entire system, so we turned in that 53,000 service line inventory to the EPA, and then the 10,800 services that we identified as lead or potential lead, we had to send every one of those residents a letter and tell them you have lead or you have potential lead, and it's just an awareness, and here's our notification that you're on that list of lead service lines. So now one thing to note is we have to send that letter every year from here forward. So every year we have to send basically the same letter unless we've replaced the service line to that home. So next April, I guess, you might get calls from some of your constituents regarding that letter. It'll be the same letter. So we've also kind of been out there through ARPA funds that have been set up, trying to verify some of those unknown lead service lines. We've done almost 700 excavations, trying to shore up that inventory. We replaced about 150 lead service lines in this fiscal year. 30 of them have been emergency type repairs, and the other 120 I would call more like new construction or planned construction. So finally, this is what I want to leave you on. I always got to leave with a good news, right? Some of you are probably aware of this, maybe not all, but I think I stood up here back in March, or maybe it was January, but anyhow, early this fiscal year, and talked about the fact that we applied for an SRF loan with principal forgiveness to the IEPA to do about 400 lead service lines in census tracts 16 and 23, so that'd be in Ward 2 and 3. We are on the final use plan for the IEPA for a loan with principal forgiveness, so in essence a grant for the amount of about $3 million, just a shade over $3 million. So that will be used for the customer's portion of the service line replacement, and obviously we're going to contribute something close to that with our O&M funds for the CWLP owned portion. So at that, we're looking at investing about $6 million into those two census tracts within wards 2 and 3 over the next 2 years. So that's where we're at in short.
We got some people who want to speak.
Okay.
Alderman Redpath.
2 questions. First, one for you, Todd. We started the lead line replacements, or we also talked about going out contractually to speed up that process. Are we looking to still do that?
Yeah, we are. We've got 2 contractors, and they're the only 2 contractors that have ever bid on our lead service line work currently working for us. So E.L. Pruitt's doing the emergency repairs, and Petersburg Plumbing is doing the new construction or the planned replacements right now. We have a bid out currently. I think we take bids Thursday to do this phase 4, which would be these wards 2 and 3.
But we're not doing them in-house ourselves right now. We're contracting that out completely.
We contract out the private side, so from the meter pit or the property line into the home, that's done with a private plumbing contractor, and our CWLP crews are doing the city-owned portion from the main to the property line.
Okay. That's all I got for you.
Okay.
Back to, I wanted to talk about the gas conversion. So you talk about we're going to probably have to use gas conversion to supplement our coal plant. Have we went out and tried to get some proposals yet for building a conversion part or a complete plant for gas conversion?
So with the greenhouse gas rule is what would, be a reason to do like the 40% option as something that we would consider. That rule, though, is being challenged, so we don't know where it's going to end up. It could, that the rule comes back and gets remanded back to the Environmental Protection Agency, and they decide that 30% is enough, or maybe they, switch it to 45, So I don't think we can really know for sure, but we are going to move forward, though, with the study as far as looking at what it's going to take for Unit 4 to work 40% natural gas and then 60% coal.
So a big part of the gas conversion would be bringing gas line into the plant, is that correct?
Well, it depends on the size. So if there's 100% gas conversion, that would be more of a factor than the 40% probably.
Would it be more cost effective to do the Interstate 55 gas plant, increase the size of that, or do we need to bring it all the way down here to Stevenson?
Our connection would probably, for 100% full, would be somewhere directly east of us, kind of where our interstate gas turbine is located at. That's where, as far as we would need to go to get to that.
We don't have to bring it to Stevenson down here?
We would have to bring it to the plant, though, yes.
Okay.
For 100%, yes.
All right.
Yeah, that line that runs to interstate, sorry, get closer, that line that runs to interstate goes from interstate north to Peoria, but it's south to basically 104 by Pawnee. So it's parallel to the plant. So it would be a short run from there to the plant.
Oh, so we don't have to run it completely down from down
We
there?
would not have to go all the way down to Pawnee area.
All right, thank you.
Alderman Gregory.
Yes, how long is that study gonna take, on the gas conversion study? I thought we already.
Well, they were working on it, and then they had some components of they wanted to have re-looked at, I guess you might say. And then when the GHG rule came out, we had to have them add the 40% look at it as well. So that's a different, kind of a different animal, I guess you might say, as far as what's needed versus 100%.
Okay. Any idea how long we looking at?
Well, yeah, I mean, so even if say we have it done within the next 4 to 6 months, the GHG rule, well, without it being, completely final, it's going to be difficult to move forward with something like that without knowing for sure what we're going to be, stuck with, I guess you might say.
Okay. I guess, all of my notes here, I won't ask them all, but I guess my whole thing would be considering a lot of the unknowns. You spoke on a little bit about the coal prices and things of that nature, and it could go beyond our reach. And then what do we do?
Well, yeah, so if coal were to climb in the future to, I don't know, say $100 a ton or something, depends what the electric market prices are at the time too. It's all relative. But if it does come out of I guess out of step, if you will, looking at conversion for natural gas is going to be an option for us to use in the future for sure.
Okay. All right. And last question, you spoke on a little bit about some of the projects that we refinanced. Is there any others that we can sort of piecemeal that together?
You're talking about like the bonds, the bonds refunding?
Yes.
Yeah. So the bonds for refunding, we were looking at doing parts for the AMI to get that started, and also the relocation of the dispatch center. That's basically been affected by the railroad relocation project.
Okay. All right. I'll send any other questions I have.
Sure.
Last note though, since we got CWLP up here. Whatever we do, I know that there is a certain system that we need about this trash on the CWLP building. And we've talked to Corporation Council about it a little bit, and I guess you guys don't have the system or something's going on with that. We have an ordinance where we can
Yeah, I mean,
force that.
as far as the people that I guess that don't have trash, and what Public Works tracks that, and then when they find somebody that's non-compliant, they basically get with our commercial office and get them that fee added to their bill.
Okay.
Yes,
So
that
we
happens,
can do
though.
that? There's
Yeah, that happens,
no other
yes.
software that we need or nothing? Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's just we don't do that though. I mean, we don't manage it. The utility, that's managed by Public Works. They notify us. We'll get it on the bill though.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Alderman Williams.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Director. So this upgrade that ISD is doing, would it fix or is this where it's going to make it easier for you guys? Would that have an impact on putting the non-trash, putting it on the bill?
No, that's actually, the enterprise resource planning software is essentially, it's like payroll, HR,
Okay.
purchasing. It's the backbone of the city operations per se. That's what that's for.
So it wouldn't, okay, I appreciate that. Then, so I just want to understand you. So while it's being challenged, we pretty much, the conversion kind of, the 40% you said is being challenged. So therefore, we won't really be making much movement?
No, no, I think we should. I think we should I think the basis will be there for us to have. And then, because if it doesn't, if it swings the other way, we might have to act pretty quickly, right? So we need to be prepared in case that happens.
Okay.
Yes, I think we need to keep going forward with that.
Okay, so you are looking at it that it could go either way, okay.
Yeah.
And then the final question is on the timeline of your, being that the ash ponds are in Ward 3, and I'm always on it, so these closure permits that we're waiting on, do we have a timeline from either Illinois or the USA?
No, we don't. They have never given us an indication of when they will approve them. It's hard to get into, their interagency type discussions. We're just not privy to that. I think there's certain rules that the Illinois EPA has to follow with the US EPA, and I don't know if there, have been
Movement or?
if they haven't really been moving, I just don't, we're not privy to that. So the one thing that we've done though, we applied for the permits. We did the lime ponds that went into operation, the lime lagoons, the new ones was last fall. So basically we're clear to, to be able to close those ash ponds now, and we've applied for the permits. So we're just waiting.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you, Chair. Doug and Scott, while you're up here, Scott, I noticed that you had said a lot of our projects, the maintenance, it has been a extremely long time. One you said has almost been 50 years. Why do we take so long to do maintenance on some of this stuff?
So we look at failure rates. So if there's been a lot of failures on certain circuits, so that's how we lay out the entire system. UIS and Lincoln Land being bigger circuits, both of those have a fairly significant load. We haven't seen many failures on them. They've both been doing a lot of upgrades, increasing the load on that circuit. So we just thought ahead of time, before it starts failing because it's got more load, we'll replace them. So we do track every underground circuit and where the failures are, and as we start seeing more failures, that's how we project what we're gonna do for next year and plan on next year.
During the budget, I know you all spoke to some of that as well, and some of the questions that we get at our neighborhood association meetings is, why do we take so long for the maintenance, and doesn't it cost us more if we wait too long to do preventative maintenance?
And a lot of times what it is when you look at it from a failure standpoint, every outage isn't a failure. Some outages are due to trees, due to rodents, squirrels,
Gotcha.
whatever. And so traffic accidents, hitting, cars hitting the poles, things like that. So those don't go into what we look at. That is, we can rebuild the line, but that's not gonna keep the squirrels off the line.
Right, okay. And then, Doug, going back to the trash, situation, so our what would I call it? Corporation. Working group had came up with adding an additional letter or some type of form on the back to tell who has the trash. And I noticed you said that Public Works has to tell you in order to put it on the bill, right?
Yes.
Now, do they have to keep up with telling you every month if they have, if that household hasn't received?
No, well, once they're on, They have to tell us to pull them off.
Public Works
So then
do,
we'll
right?
send Public Works back. We just kind of went through this last month, I think, about like sending them a monthly report of who is on that, who has that fee. So that way they can review it to see if somebody needs to come off or not.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then Todd, can you come on up? I know that I have a meeting next week with the CWLP to kind of walk through some of this, so I'm glad you brought the presentation forward so I can also follow up on questions. But I know you talked about wards 2 and 3, and I'm the next in line with the largest amount of lead pipes to be replaced. And like you said, too, a lot of my constituents received letters. But what are the steps after that? Do we have like a time frame that they have to fix this now that you have identified that they have lead pipes, or you think that they do? What is the steps for that?
Right. And so those are some of the biggest questions that come out of that letter. No matter how much we try to articulate in that letter and be clear, it's just a difficult letter to comprehend if you're not in the business doing this every day. The one thing I want to say make sure everybody understands is our monitoring history is extremely favorable. Very rarely do we see lead in drinking water. Okay. So it's mainly the calcium carbonate scale we lay down on the lead service lines. It protects the lead from leaching into the water, and so we're generally good with that. So we're going to have to follow the mandate. So that's the ultimate protection, is just removing the lead in its entirety, right? So that there is no potential, whether the scale gets disturbed or whatever happens. That's the ultimate protection, and that's the way the industry is going and the regulations are going. So we'll have to get there. So in the interim, yeah, there's no immediate risk or inherent risk here, but at the same time, we're on this program. And why wards 2 and 3 are being addressed over the next 2 years is there is free, when I say free, it's not free, but it's free to us, federal money, right? Well, we all pay for it at some point, right? But it's federal money, and it's through the bill law, and they're only giving away half of that as principal forgiveness or in the grant form.
Okay, and then on that question, Todd, is there a deadline for that too that you have to meet for us to continue to receive that? Like, how long is that for?
So that grant is good, and we will likely apply for another one soon. The formula now is based in part on some demographics, which I'm not going to go into, but largely MHI, median household income. So you get more points for the lower or the more underserved areas of the community. And in fact, this one, we wanted to make sure we got the principal forgiveness while it's available over the next couple years. And I think our application rated 8th out of the 100 or so that were put into the process. So I think Chicago had some areas that 7 of those areas or 6 of those areas in front of us. So that's the formula. We're trying to get as much with this looming task of 10,800 in a 20-year program. We're trying to get access to as much what we'll call grant money as we can up front. Ultimately, we're going to have to hit all these areas, but the more we can do that, the more equitable this program is going to be across our customer base long term.
And my final two things that I want to address. So Ms. Amber does an awesome job with putting this information out, but I think, you all have given multiple of us tours of the water plant and stuff, and I think that we should maybe do a video to show people, because those little balls, that's how it filters to make our water clean, and I think that's just a good visual to show the community as well, and then have her talk about this on social media, and maybe even put something in our water bill to go out to people so that they just understand that letter. You know what I mean, Doug?
Right, for sure. And we're always, any of the aldermen that haven't been out there, we're always anxious to take you through the plant. We can have one-on-one discussions about this lead program or anything else you want to talk about.
Yep, I look forward to coming out next week.
And there's also outreach that they're doing as a part of this process with, wards 2 and 3 for this grant. And they're going to be, part of the build event. Todd's been working with Ethan Posey, Director of Community Relations. So trying to, get that out, because we want customers to understand that this grant is paying for their service, right? So we want them to be involved and trust that we're going to take care of this for them.
One thing that you guys did well was during the derecho, you had a sheet that showed what was the responsibility of the homeowner and what was our responsibility, and it was in colors to show when their electrical boxes come off their house. I think we need to do more visuals of that stuff too to help people understand.
Yeah, we've got some schematics like
Okay.
that. And then these two, what we're hoping to do is in each one of these census tracts, have kind of a neighborhood meeting here in October as a kickoff. You know, obviously, Aldermans Gregory and Williams, we'll want them there, but everybody's welcome, and we can certainly send the invite out to the rest of council so you can kind of see what we're up to. And, you know, eventually we'll be doing the same thing in your ward when we can get those projects started in your ward.
Well, you know, I will definitely be requesting you all to come out for sure.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Notriano.
Thank you, Chair. Todd, this is a question for you too. So remind me, so you said we're up $2 million in revenue related to the water rate increase?
Through July 31st of this fiscal year, so that's 5 months worth of revenues that we have in our financials complete. Those are our completed financials to date, yes.
And do you have the number close by of what you were expecting?
We were expecting about 8 for the fiscal year, so we're about 40% through the fiscal year, and we got about 25% of the revenues we expected. So that's the delta.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I mean, you could sit here and you can go, well, supply and demand, we could do all that. With the increases in price, water, you know, for domestic use and commercial use is pretty inelastic. It's, you know, people just need to use it. The one component that isn't, and it's more driven, I mean, obviously price, you get to a certain point and it makes a difference, but I don't think we're there. The big component, at least this year and maybe the last 5 years, is it seems to have rained about every third day. We haven't had that drought. We just haven't had that lawn watering demand this summer. So September looks pretty good. I mean, we're just a fraction above in our raw pumpage. So we don't get the numbers back from billing to a month in arrear, but it looks pretty good in September.
Mm-hmm. So you're not really seeing a difference in demand? It's more just seasonal?
No, well, yeah, I mean, I think that you can attribute the difference this summer due to the weather, for sure, yeah.
Okay.
Our base load's still the same, essentially, yeah.
And so is anything being underfunded because we're coming up short?
No, right now, what we're doing is we're trying to shore up our cash position. We're trying to get to a point where we can pay back the electric fund, the $4.5 million we owe them, and the corporate fund, the $1 million we owe them, and then have a sufficient cash reserve to start bonding some of these bigger projects. I mean, probably, you know, if the revenues don't come in as projected, we'll just have to delay some of the bonding of those projects is what we'll have to do. That's the proposed approach. But we're a long way from seeing that and alarm, you know, sending off the alarm bells too much at this point. But certainly I wanted to make you aware of where we were in terms of generating new revenue or new money.
Definitely. I appreciate it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I think the focus would be, you know, try to, you know, to take care of like the lead service lines, you know, those are the things that we need to gear up for. The other stuff is just gonna have to wait.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Thanks.
Alderwoman Conley, do you have any questions?
Alderman Williams.
Yeah, I just want to thank you three guys. You know, I appreciate it. You know, I know we're always fussing about this. I do believe the tenants, I'm not going to speak for the landlords, but the tenants from these areas, you know, they do get fearful when they receive these kind of letters or hear about these kind of subject matters. And once they understand that they are living and renting from some of the oldest structure, you know, infrastructure, so we had the oldest lines and pipes and everything else in the city. And that's where a lot of this little confusion, I'm going to try to get with you guys to work out how to ease some of that fear and some of that understanding, and versus if it's the landlord's responsibility, if it's mine, Alderman, that type of thing. But I thank you guys for the work and getting the grant. That was so important, you know, because I always worry about how do we fix it from the actual house to our main. I always hear a lot of money go through this council when we're taking care of the city side of it, getting it up to the house. But there's a lot of cost always associated with the piece that's on landlord side, I'll say, and that's where a lot of tension comes in Ward 3, because a lot of them are tenants. They're not landlords, and they're not in control, but they're living and experiencing the experience of what we're talking about. So, I know you've been chasing me, and I'm gonna get with you. I promise, I just been a little busy, so we'll get it together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
More discussion? Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to move to executive session.
Second.
Mr. Chair,
I'm sorry.
I'd be happy to make the motion to go into executive session pursuant to
2C2 collective bargaining matters, 2C6 setting the price of real estate for property owned by the city, and 2C11 litigation.
Very good. All,
Well said, Jim.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So move to executive session.
Do we need anything?
Welcome back, everyone. All mics are on, and we are currently transcribing and recording.
Here, I brought you some more water because you're.
That's what I needed.
That's part of my stash.
Got rid of the other.
I
Thank you.
went out and filled mine.
Thank you.
You gotta wait for Frank. You gotta wait for Frank.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I like your style.
Not really. My bad.
Come on, Frank.
Order. The meeting's now reconvened. Assistant Treasurer. We have ordinance.
Clerk.
Or whatever. Clerk. Sorry. Okay. We have ordinances remaining in committee.
Plenty.
There he comes.
Here he comes. Sorry, Clerk, I jumped the gun.
That's all right. That's all right. We're here. We're ready.
Ready? We have ordinance table to remain in committee. Mr. Clerk, could you please read those ordinances?
2024, 178, 2024, 239, 2024, 331, 2024, 333.
Any movement?
Mr. Chair,
Yes. Alderman Gregory.
I just want to speak on 2024-331, the agreement with the Hoogland. Even if I pull it out tonight, I don't know if it's somebody here to speak with them. Are you guys from the Hoogland? Even if I pull it out tonight, it's not going to take no action, so I can pull it out next week. I do have some thoughts still, but I will pull it out next week for a vote. I just want to let you guys know that. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Is that it, Mr. Yes. Okay.
All right.
Sorry you had to wait so long.
Mr. Clerk, now ordinances for committee consideration, CWLP.
2024, 377, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of Cisco SmartNet support maintenance for core infrastructure equipment from Presido Networked Solutions, LLC, from state contract in an amount not to exceed $96,007.91 for the Office of Public Utilities.
Move for passage.
Motion for debate, Mr. Redpath?
Debate, I'm sorry.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2024, 378, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of a trailer excavator from Co-Equipment Incorporated in a third-party cooperative purchasing agreement with Sourcewell in an amount not to exceed $96,372.46 for the Office of Public Utilities.
Consent.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Public Works, 2024, 379, an ordinance approving an agreement between the Railway Highway Grade Crossing Improvements at Griffiths Avenue, Converse Street, and Moffett Avenue with the State of Illinois, the City of Springfield, and Illinois, and Midland Railroad for the Department of Public Works.
Move for consent.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
2024, 380, an ordinance authorizing execution of an annexation agreement between the City of Springfield, Illinois, and Jeanette V. Paul as trustee of the first reinstatement of the Jeanette V. Paul Trust as amended for the property located at 2412 Old Beardstown Road for the Office of Public Works.
Move for debate? Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
2024, 381, an ordinance annexing certain described real property located at 2412 Old Beardstown Road.
Move for debate?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
2024, 382, an ordinance authorizing execution of annexation agreement between the City of Springfield, Illinois, and Richard S. Saunders and Peggy L. Saunders for the property located at 1149 North Daniel Avenue for the Office of Public
Move
Works.
for consent.
Move for debate because of the annexation agreement.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be a public hearing.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
2024, 383, an ordinance annexing certain described real property located at 1149 North Daniel Avenue for the Office of Public Works.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to consider proposed amendment number 1 that has been presented to the council.
So,
Committee, excuse me.
Help me out. Clerk?
Yes. Proposed amendment?
Yes. Number 1. So we're moving forward with the,
Corporation Counsel, you want to go ahead and,
Right, so the proposed amendment has been moved and seconded. The amendment corrects the third whereas clause to state that there are 2 electors who reside on the property, not 0 electors. The owners and petitioners are the sole electors that
Any
reside on the
discussion?
property.
Motion to adopt amendment number 1.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to, for debate as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
2024-384, an ordinance authorizing execution of annexation agreement between the City of Springfield, Illinois, and Eric Carlicker and Tori L. Carlicker for the property located at 4040 Tucson Road for the Office of Public Works.
Move for debate. Does that have to go to debate as well?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2024-385, an ordinance authorizing the execution of an annexation agreement between the City of Springfield, Illinois, and National Electrical Contractors Association for the property located at 6405 Canadian Cross Drive for the Office of Public Works.
Move for debate. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2024-386, a resolution for temporary closure of a portion of Illinois State Route 97, Jefferson Street, from 5th Street to 9th Streets for the annual Halloween parade to be held on October 26, 2024 for the Office of Public Works.
Motion for consent.
Second.
Any debate? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2024-387, a resolution notifying the State of Illinois Department of Transportation that motor fuel tax funds in the amount of $39,500 may be used for the city share for planning work outlined in the Unified Planning Work Program as required by the 1962 Federal and Highway Act, SATS Springfield Area Transportation Study, MFT Section 24-00300-00-ES, as amended for the Office of Public Works.
Motion for consent.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2024-388, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of a 2024 Ford F-250 from Landmark Ford Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $65,655 under state contract number BOSS-4-B-23568 for the Office of Public Works.
Move for consent. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2024-389, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of 2 2023 Ford F-150 pickup trucks from Morrow Brothers Ford Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $94,482 under state contract number 21-416 CMS-BOSS-4-P-29479 for the Office of Public Works.
Move for consent.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr.
All in
Chair.
favor? Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, I just want to ask Director Fuchs, what are we doing with the old ones, Director? The old trucks on both of these ordinances? I'm sorry to make you walk up, my friend.
We are trading them in, although there isn't much value with them. The Ford is replacing, you remember the Exploder? They kept catching on fire. Well, we're finally getting rid of that.
I
so.
don't remember that one. Okay, all right, I appreciate you, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2024-390, an ordinance authorizing execution of agreement with the Springfield-Sangamon County Regional Planning Commission for the performance of transportation work under the Unified Planning Work from Program July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, in an amount not to exceed $39,500, MFT Section Number 24-003-00-00-ES for the Office of Public Works.
Move for consent.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Ayes have it.
General City Business, 2024-391, an ordinance authorizing decrease in the number of Class C liquor licenses by one for Hibachi Sushi Supreme Buffet, LLC, doing business as Hibachi Sushi Supreme Buffet, located at 2309 South MacArthur Boulevard.
Motion for consent?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Ayes have it.
2024-392, an ordinance ratifying the FY26 health insurance premiums and the health benefit summary plan described for the City of Springfield active union participants for the Office of Human Resources.
Motion for debate.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2024-393, an ordinance ratifying the FY26 health insurance premiums and health benefit summary plan description for the City of Springfield active non-union and non-active retired participants for the Office of Human Resources.
Move for debate.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2024-394, an ordinance ratifying the execution of an agreement entitled Technical Correction between the City of Springfield Office of Public Utilities and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 337, dated March 20th, 2023.
Move to debate.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2024-395, an ordinance authorizing execution of contract for fire protection services with Curran, Southside, Woodside, South Oak Knolls, South Lawn, East Lake, Lake Springfield, North Side, Western Fire Protection Districts from February 29, 2024 through February 28, 2026.
Move for
Motion for consent.
consent.
Second.
I do have.
Any discussion?
Okay.
Alderman Redpath.
Chief, could you come up, please? So my question, Chief, is we go through these contracts on a regular basis. Is there any difference, any changes in the contract, or are they the same contract from the year prior?
Pretty much the same thing. It was being done on an annual basis. This time we went for a 2-year basis, but Corporate Counsel Katia, well, actually it started under O'Brien, and Katia finished them up, so, but it's every other year now.
Is there a financial impact on the city at all for this? Or
This is, they provide money to us for the fire service we provide to them.
is it the same as it always been? Same price?
It's based on a formula that they use that's in the rules. Corporate Counsel can explain how that's figured, but their board for the fire protection districts, that's what they pay us.
Right, it's based on a formula because we provide fire protection services for these districts. So I can send you that formula if you want to see it.
If we're in pending and probable litigation with one of these fire districts, should we be voting on this right now?
I think we are.
I believe that's a different district.
Okay, thank you. That's what I needed.
Anything else, Alderman Redpath?
Nope.
Alderman Hanauer.
So are any of these part of the Leland Grove area? Or these are all lake, right?
No, hang on, let me pull up.
I'll tell you the reason why, and I've asked this before, when it comes time to Leland Grove, when we're driving our trucks and we hit those, I've talked to some of the drivers that they say when they hit those speed bumps over there, it rattles their cage and it doesn't do our engines any good. I kind of think that we need to make sure that they have to deal with any repairs that have to happen.
Okay, I'll work with Corporate Counsel on that to see if there's anything we can do on
If there's anything that
that.
can be done, but it's definitely a problem from what you got a truck full of water and it hits those things. It's not good for the truck.
Yeah. No.
Thank you.
Anything else? Alderman Hanauer.
No, thank you.
We had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2024-396, an ordinance authorizing acceptance of proposal under RFP CS 19-29 and execution of agreement with Letitia Moore Black for the sale of city-owned property consisting of one parcel located at 816 South 16th Street in the amount of $500 for the Office of Budget and Management.
Motion for consent.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2024-397, an ordinance authorizing execution of an agreement with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity to accept, execute, and supplementally appropriate local tourism and convention bureau grant number 25-751029 beginning July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, in an amount not to exceed $534,385 for the Springfield Convention and Visitors Bureau.
For consent.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
2024-398, an ordinance authorizing acceptance and execution of the Youth Economic Opportunities Initiative for the state fiscal year 2025 for a 12-month continuation grant in the amount of $283,451 from State of Illinois Department of Human Services for funding of AmeriCorps programs, including a cash match from the City of Springfield in the amount of $50,780 and authorizing a supplemental appropriation for the FY 2025 for no more than $151,218 for the Office of Planning and Economic Development.
Motion for consent.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. It's done with the ordinances. Next is unfinished business. The unfinished,
Mr. Chairman, if I might,
yes, Alderman Redpath.
can we have a reconsider vote on 2024-377? I made a motion for debate, and if there's no objections, I'd like to put that on consent.
Second, sorry about that, Chuck.
I'm sorry.
Any discussion? 377,
First one on CWLP.
Yeah. No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Any other unfinished business, new business?
Yes.
Okay, Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you. This weekend is the International Route 66 Festival, starting September 27th through the 29th, that Friday, and I think we have great weather for the parade coming in. I would like to encourage everyone to come out. We had a all-time breaking record last year of over 1,500 cars that came out. All of our downtown is blocked off and is open to the public for free. And I hope to see some of my colleagues out too as well. And then also I didn't want to forget to ask for Director Posey to come up and make the announcement about their upcoming event as well.
Oh, Director Posey.
I don't think he want to be an alderman.
No, I will definitely pass. I do not want your jobs at all. However, I would like to let everyone up here know and everyone in the public know that next Saturday, October 5th, from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., we'll be having our second annual Build Springfield event at Bunn Field, which is 1300 East Division Street. We have over 30 community partners, including some new partners like Express Employment, Lincoln Land Community College, University of Illinois Springfield, Springfield Clinic will be out there, SIU School of Medicine. Every agency that we have at the city will be represented. Bell's Finest Barbecue will be doing the catering, so there's free barbecue for people. There's a barber coming and do some free haircuts. Get your hair lined up. Gonna have some bounce houses for the kids. Come and ask your questions. Have a good time. Enjoy the community. Fellowship with everybody. And we hope to see everyone in the community out there for us. October 5th, 9 to 1:30, Bunfield, 1300 East Division.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Appreciate you.
Clerk, now it's time for citizens who signed up to address the committee.
Jill Garland.
That was.
Just did
You
the
skipped.
business.
Jill Garland.
Garland?
Good.
Okay. Bob Emmel.
Nice shirt.
Thank you. Good evening. A couple of weeks ago, Linda Renahan came up here and was speaking about downtown parking and how a lot of the people still feed the meters even though they no longer are required. So in doing so, I came up with an idea that is incredibly simple and incredibly easy to implement, and more importantly, cheap. So I've got, if you could mind passing one of these out, and there's copies from Mr. Lesko and Mr. Murdoch.
Thank you.
So right now, each of the meters has a little yellow sticker on it that says, use a key to pay. That sticker is 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. How about just replace that sticker with what's on the sheet that I'm passing out to you that just simply says, free parking, 2-hour limit. Now, people that can't read will still probably put a quarter in there, but at least it will eliminate having the people put quarters in there. So many times I see people, especially our wonderful tourists, and that's where we make a lot of money from, that are feeding the meters, and I'll say, oh, no, you don't need to feed the meters. You don't need to feed the meters. And so with that in mind, that's why I said just put a little sticker on there that says free parking, 2-hour limit, or whatever the limit is. You'll also see that on the page that I handed you, right around the corner here, as you go down into the parking garage, it still says rates 50 cents per hour. And so, Chair, I made a sign. I'm going to show that to everybody here. By the way, I'm going to put a little plug in for the collab over at Lincoln Library. I made this over there this afternoon. This is vinyl and it's permanent. So, Chair, I'm going to ask you, please give this to the library director and have them implement it immediately tomorrow so that people do not have to realize that underground parking garage. I always tell people that is one of the best kept secrets in the world, that you could park underneath there, especially during this past summer when it was so hot, and, you know, guard your car and everything. In the remaining amount of time, I also wanted to point out, back in the 70s and the 80s, we had a program. The forerunner to DSI was a group, it was called SCADA, which stood for Springfield Central Area Development Association. They worked with conjunction with Downtown Parking Incorporated so that merchants, when you went in to go visit a merchant, they would put a sticker on the back of your parking ticket that would give you your first 30 minutes of parking for free. Why don't you bring something like that back so that people can realize they get the first 30 minutes of parking in one of the garages free? The other thing that was also done back in the 70s and 80s that me being a teenager I used all the time is SMTD had a program whereby you rode the bus downtown and you visited a merchant and they would give you a token and you got your ride home for free. Why don't we do something like that to encourage people to use SMTD? Ride up, you know, you pay one way, you get your return trip home for free. So, little low-hanging fruits, that's what I offer you tonight, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Bob, for coming and sharing your ideals with us. I know that our Madam Mayor appointed me to our Regional Zoning and Planning Commission, and Ms. Molly was doing a study for parking and doing something for our meters as well. I do want to ask Director Fuchs, do we have any updates? Because I'm not for sure what the cost would be to put the free parking 2-hour limit where it's the cash key or coin, because if we're removing some of those, we don't want to spend money on putting the signs on them. So I do want to ask him to provide an update for you as well. But thank you so much, and again, I love your shirt.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
I have received no report, and I have no update for you right now. I'd be glad to take another look and see if there's something new there, but I haven't received anything recently.
Okay, and then we're not doing anything with the meters at all, neither?
I am under no instruction.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Larry Allen.
Larry?
Bradley Russell. Ken Pesha.
Mr. Pesha.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'd like to start off, unfortunately, tonight by taking just a moment of silence for Marcellus Williams, who was murdered by the state of Missouri earlier today at 6:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. Just a moment of silence for that. In that space of that moment, it's frustrating because those are the kind of decisions that come from a law enforcement department that mishandled a case originally for him. And while that doesn't touch necessarily on the SPD currently, we do have yet another story of the SPD this week that was reported of yet another officer engaged in illegal behavior. I think the part that frustrates me is I took a look at our union agreement that we have with the police department that runs until 2026. And there's nothing in there that stipulates that someone that's engaged in like a domestic abuse incident or has an OP put against him will be immediately removed from the force. He was put on inactive duty, just hanging out after he shoved his wife around. I mean, quite frankly, I mean, no matter how you feel about the offense itself, if you're out there enforcing laws, You shouldn't be out there breaking them as well. Additionally, I think the part that frustrated me the most, I hope you've all read the article, was the part where our own chief noted that our department was unaware that he didn't have a FOID card for an entire year after having it automatically suspended from getting an OP. Now, that doesn't prevent him by Illinois law from engaging in law enforcement behavior, but they did remove 2 gun safes full of guns from his house. So, I mean, those weaponry were still able to be handled by him. He still had access to a weapon while on the force, while not legally allowed as a citizen to carry a weapon. I don't know about you, but that makes me feel unsafe that we wouldn't allow him as a citizen to carry around that weapon, right? But he could be out here enforcing laws against our own citizens with that weapon in his hand, and then our city would be legally responsible for those outcomes, because unfortunately within that same union agreement is the qualified immunity that seems to poison most efforts to change and fix police department malfeasance within their communities. And that's something that on a local level, you guys absolutely do have the power by Illinois law to engage in holding the police department responsible culpably through ordinances and enactment of laws. So, I mean, those are choices you guys have to hold them culpable, to help encourage them, even with our current union agreement, to start making proactive changes that would help stop an officer like that from getting to the point where he's getting indicted for jars of steroids, giant jars of weed, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with smoking weed, right? But he's a cop. He shouldn't be having jars of weed. He shouldn't be on Snapchat bagging up weed individually for that to even be seen. That kind of behavior, and I'll give credit to the PD real quick. They did immediately, upon finding out that he was using drugs and selling them, they immediately went under their proper guidelines and following it to get him off the force. And Scarlett himself has stated that he will do all he can statewide to have him decertified. So it's not meant to be a critique or an attack on the current administration, but as a city council, you guys have the ability to do things to prevent officers like that from even getting to that point. As soon as he laid his hands on his domestic partner, that should have been it. You shouldn't be engaging in that sort of behavior and then coming out and telling me that I'm out here breaking the law. You don't have that kind of platform that should be allowed to you. And unfortunately, our police unions tend to allow for that, but our city council doesn't. So that would be one part of that. The other part I signed up for was the cannabis funding. And I do want to talk about that because it's really important to me within my own ward, which Sean knows, but also in the idea that the last 2 programs have been very problematic in terms of outcomes, whether you look at the audit from the first one, which I personally don't stand by that audit's results, just based off speaking to some of those owners myself. But with the second round, we've only given it out to 5 owners. That is a shameful amount. And I think it's frustrating to me that we don't have more things in place to help encourage that across the city, but also in the essence of giving the opportunity to non-business owners. And what I mean by that is entrepreneurs, people that have the idea, the knowledge, the information, and the capability to create businesses within the East Side and create a better outcome and better taxes and things like that. But we're not giving that to them. We're giving it to people that may already be established and then expecting them to have matching funds. I mean, quite frankly, for a lot of businesses starting out, if anyone started one out, whether it's restaurants or anything else, there's a lot of risk involved in that, right? And a 10-year clawback, I don't know about you, but that makes me really uncomfortable about reaching out for that kind of money and taking the kind of risk that running a business requires. So it's just something where when we're looking at that kind of program, I encourage for the third round, which it said February 2025, and I know I'm over my time, just give me like 30 more seconds. The next round's 2025 in February, so that's something where I would encourage when we start looking at those guidelines to really consider broadening who we can give that money to, whether it's the whole council voting on that or that's a smaller discussion. I'm not 100% privy to that end of things, but that's something where with that, I think it'd be more important to consider the idea that we as a community have a lot of people who would be willing to engage in that, but with the clawbacks that are involved, the limitations, the people that can't even get involved in it necessarily because of things like that, or just the preventative end where we're not reaching out proactively as a city to people to help spend that money, I think is a big issue with it. So I think if we think about things like that, and I'll follow up more in the future, there's other programs in other cities that would offer better information on how to expand that I could elaborate on more. So I'll go further over my time. Thank you guys for your time tonight.
Appreciate you, Ken.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Alice Ramey.
Alice, you're on.
She left. Oh, there she is.
Chair, I would like to ask Ward 2 a question, Sean Gregory, please. Sean, who picked the mural for Miss Massey to be on the overpass? Who picked it?
Who picked it?
Yes.
It would be the people that marched that day in that general area. It was done by a young man named Austin Wells.
I was at the county board member meeting over at the Boss, and I was sitting with a bunch of people that from Faith Coalition. They thought it was very offensive, okay? If that was my daughter, it would come down, because she's a beautiful lady. Why would you put something up there like that? It just disgraces it. I mean, your people are far better than that, but that's not the only reason I wanted to say that, okay? That was on my heart, so I had to tell you,
Well,
okay?
I just want to let you know that the family was there with them. They are well aware of that mural and what it looks like, and they are totally okay with it. But you know, everyone has from a different culture, and I'll just leave it at that.
All right, continue, Alice.
I'm
please.
not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. I'll be good. Thank you, Mayor. I will be good, all right? I am up here for two reasons. It's awful hard to get people to come out to the house and look at a poison tree. And I have one in my backyard, as Roy knows. And the leaves are going wild on the wires. And it's all dead around the bottom because of the poison wick was on it. And I didn't know it until some man started cutting off the limbs that were falling out. Usually, a big tree. It is a big tree. It's been there for 50 years, so it's pretty tall. And I just found out that one of the gentlemen is going to go out and look at it, and I appreciate that, and thank you so very much for the time for me being up here. But I want to thank all of you trying to do the best of your time, the best of your ability to take care of the city. But I do understand that there's other things that has to be taken care of, and you should be more in tune to what is going out here in the streets. And I understand by this young man here, I do believe you guys do have authority that can take whatever you want with the police department. Just don't mess with a lot of people that are trying to do the best out there. Thank you for bringing it up, sir. Have a good night, and God bless all of you.
Janice Smith.
Yes, I'm Janice Smith. I live at 4 on East Jefferson, Ward 5. My church having a revival October for the 6th for the 9th at 7 Church of Nazarene down the street from the New Colony Market, 770 85 Vitter Road, and it starts at 6:30, and I'd like for y'all to come. I got some handouts for you. I'd like for you to be there. And then Sunday, October 13th, we have a missionary from Thailand. He don't speak. I'd like for you to be there too. We don't have apple grow afterwards, Sunday morning worship. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, that's all that's signed up to
Okay,
speak.
nobody else signed up to speak. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.